and it's wonderful to be here with you today. My name is Dr. Celina Pierman, and whether you are new to me or we've been hanging out some years, thank you for taking the time, whether you're joining us live today or investing some time in the recording later. I'm grateful for the continued work together. I'm excited to share with you today some new content. So one of the challenges within our world and for our team is every year the questions come back is, what else you got? What else are you working on? What else do we need to be learning about? So it challenges us all the time to see what else is going on out there. What are some of the themes or patterns that we're seeing within organizations, and how can we contribute to that? What is our space in that to help support, encourage, and give you some additional tools and resources to do the work you need to do? So this particular content came exactly out of that. It got me back into some research that I'll mention this morning about who else out there is doing some publishing around their work in this area. And as always, as I love to say, scholar practitioner, we look at the research and then we apply it to real life, sometimes with a snarky sense of humor, but we apply it to real life because that's where the magic is. We take that learning and we decide within your organization, your team, with us on your own, how do we make today better? How do we continue to drive results in our organization in order to fulfill our commitments, serve who we serve, take care of whatever that is your organization does, or really how you want to be known within your roles, whether they're employed roles, volunteer roles, or any of the above. So we're going to take some time. I'm going to switch screens here for just a moment to get us going. And I want you to think about just the power of small moves, because that's our topic for today. Small moves, the art of adjustments or adjustments, right? Really thinking about what is the next thing you can do that's going to move you into the space you want to be. I think we live in a wider culture that gives these messages and influences that it's these profound moments, these huge leaps that get us success or get us to whatever goals we're pursuing. And I want to present an opposite argument today. And this is because I see it lived every day. It's really your next move and the move after that, and then the move after that, that's going to get us to the place we think we want to be. One of my fascinations for the last 17 years of doing this work full time, and some decade and a half before that in organizations, was really looking at the space between here and there. My TED Talk that's out there, there's two, but one of them very specifically focused on the space between there and here. And so I think about that for this topic today of what do you need? What can I help you with for this investment of time that's going to get you that next step? The other thing that comes up in a lot of my training and workshops is around momentum. That momentum builds when you take that next step, when you can adjust, and momentum shifts, and that's okay. Motivation and momentum are renewable. And then the third thing I was thinking as this material was coming together is that if I had to pick a word, as we are here at the end of a calendar year, is there a theme or a pattern that I've seen pop up all year long? And we did some earlier work on this in the year, and I started talking about it in June, and here we are at the end of the year. The word is still there. It's confidence. And it's really a lack of confidence that I am seeing and hearing about in conversations of, hey, wait a minute, how did I end up being the person in this space who is the expert or supposed to have an answer for this? And so I tie this to small moves, the art of adjustment, because confidence builds when we take steps. You do something, you've already done it now. Now you got some lessons learned to do the next thing. So this has really been a way to bring some of our work together with, I believe, and you can give me some feedback on that, some different learning around what's your next step. And it doesn't have to be a big step, but it does have to be something if you're going to get from here to there. We are going to do a live interaction. So if you're on the video for today, this screen will pop up again a little ways down the road, but you are welcome to participate. We're going to do a group word cloud today. So you can take a picture of that with your smartphone. You can go to slido.com on your PC. Just jot down those numbers for a moment. We'll come back to that in a little while, but it just gives us a way to apply some of this material. And I'll say it's a little bit of a quiz. So there we go. I want you to consider for a moment why small moves matter. I wrestled with small as a word in this for a little while because I'm like, it's really next move. I don't want this to sound insignificant, but it's not. We can look so many places in our world, to Mother Nature, to systems and processes around us, to our communities, to our family and friends. And it doesn't take long to understand that small is not insignificant. Small is scale. That if I want to go from here to there, what's my next move? And that mindset that it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be something that is overpowering or overwhelming. Now, sometimes we get big moves, like that's okay. But really, when we think about it in our day-to-day work, in our lives with family and friends, it's the small moves that matter most. So when I think about this particular term that I'm adopting and using as part of this content, it's really small intentional shifts in behavior. You've seen probably many examples out there. We think about this in healthcare coaching. We think about this in many aspects of our lives. So what we can call small moves are really have an outsized, I love that word, by the way, positive impact on teams and organizations. This is not insignificant. It's outsized, positive impact. And for our work today, in teams and organizations. When we think about the power of incremental change, it allows us to make progress over time. And that becomes really important in our teams and our companies because if we do too much too fast, people start worrying. They get a little freaked out. They're unsure because there's so much coming at them. When we look at the content that I do within keynoting and training around navigating relentless change, it may keep coming at us, right? But those power of steps are really important because what happens is that builds trust and engagement over time. And incremental change helps us move and adjust so we can demonstrate more consistency and more intentionality. And what I love is there is a compounding effect because small adjustments today can absolutely lead to significant transformations over time. Let's not just take my word for it. You are probably, and I hope, thinking of your own examples so far, but the research out there is really actually pretty significant in this area. And there is a science behind small moves. I'm going to mention a couple of them here, but true story, I have like an entire packet of writing about it that has been so fun to do. So 3 concepts that I'm going to frame these around include psychological safety, behavioral nudges, and what is actually identified in the research as emotional contagions. If you haven't heard of that one, that's really fun. You could use that in a new meeting. Like that is the toxic person who influences everybody else. So we'll come back to that in just a minute. If you consider this art of adjustment, right, the ripple effect easily comes to mind. That small actions have that compounding effect, much like pebble dropped in water, right, that creates ripples. Many studies and organizational behavior show that small positive behaviors, like saying thank you, can improve morale, trust, and team cohesion. that positive actions can set off a chain reaction when one person models constructive behavior and inspires other people to do the same. In our workshops around train the trainer, I will use a phrase that says one of the most powerful ways people learn at work is by watching other people, right? And so, are we giving them something good to watch? What is that ripple effect that comes from that? So, that leads us into psychological safety and small, consistent moves, right? Actively listening, acknowledging effort, building that building that inclusive environment provides us a foundation of trust. It was really a lot of Amy Edmondson's work and her research on psychological safety that shows the environment where team members feel valued and respected leads to higher performance and motivation. A lot of our work recently has been around psychological safety connected to safety. I am not going to learn what I need to learn or speak up when I need to speak up or identify hazards for my team members if I don't feel safe to do so. Even simple behaviors, such as nodding during conversations or repeating back what you heard, shows attentiveness and respect. There's more work that's been done now by Timothy Clark that shares with us that psychological safety is that ability to know I feel like I belong. And when I feel like I belong, I'm safe to learn. And when I'm safe to learn, I'm safe to give input. And when I feel safe to give input, I'll give you pushback when I need to. Behavioral nudges is another one that's been fascinating me for a while. And I had the opportunity to dig into that with some recent work these last few years around ethics. What's going to keep us from making a decision, even if our values are posted and guideposts are there, to nudge us back onto a pathway? So these are subtle prompts that encourage better decision making. I've used it in ethics work within organizations, but it also leads to other kinds of performance. So asking open-ended questions, right? Prompts. Have you thought about this? I can nudge somebody in the way I'm coaching. It was interesting to me, Richard Thaler's work on behavioral economics really demonstrates that small nudges, like phrasing choices positively or arranging options visibly, can lead to better decision making. And leaders, we can use nudges, such as framing feedback constructively, because when we reinforce good, we get more good. When we reinforce negative, that's what we get. So it's just another way to think about our brain science and what we can research on this concept of small moves, next moves, ripple effect. So let's take on, I think this is my favorite new word, emotional contagion. And it's really this idea that we see all the time at work that behaviors are contagious. And so a way a leaders' attitudes and behaviors influence team morale, but this also goes for us, right? As coworkers, as team members, no matter what kind of organization you're with. Neuroscience has actually shown that mirror neurons in the brain cause us to mimic the emotions and the behaviors of people around us. So small acts like smiling, expressing gratitude, showing empathy can uplift an entire team. It's not unusual for me to be sitting with a group of people struggling in a company because the stuff is hard. And sometimes I'm asked to call out in professional ways what's really going on with this team, with this group. And sometimes that conversation sounds something like this. I'm sitting with a group of leads or supervisors, managers, doesn't matter level, team members, individual contributors, people who are just trying to get the work done and earn a living, but they're miserable. And often I will say, in response to that misery, that grouchiness, whatever behaviors are showing up that are negative and contagious, if we don't see a future of possibilities, we're right. I have a lead say to me, this place stinks. I don't want to work here. Okay. Well, the not wanting to work here is a separate conversation. But when we have an influence on people, and if you believe this place stinks, everybody else will believe you. So I really want us to understand that ripple effect and how we could do some huge gesture to turn that around. I might argue, though, that that's probably unrealistic. With long to-do lists and things you've got to get done, I'm going to ask you what's your next best small move. So let's look at some examples. Here's some key areas for small moves that I want you to be able to take away from today, because that's part of the reason we do this. It gives me a chance to share with you, get some feedback, but also I want you to be able to take a nugget and do what you need to do with it. So these are the 4 areas briefly we're going to touch base on: recognition and appreciation, empathy and support, inclusive leadership, growth and development. I would offer that maybe a few of these you're like, oh, yes, of course we know the topics. Of course we know that these are things we're supposed to do. In fact, not too long ago, I had a company president look at me and say, remind me again why I pay you to come in here and remind me of things I already know. It's because you love supporting our business and my team and keeping us afloat. But beyond that, because we all need reminders. All those things pulling and tugging at you today, have your focus, have your attention, and all the things you need to get done. But we do need these to come back to top of mind, because here's what I know. You may not get 4 hours this next week just to go make an impact on someone else. But I'm betting you could find 30 seconds this afternoon. Recognition and appreciation, acknowledgement, highlight a team member's contributions in the best space and time to recognize their effort. Nice job. Thank you for taking the initiative on that. We know how powerful the spoken word is. We also know personal notes still matter. Now, I can send an email, and at a distance I may need to. However, how important it is to take a moment to do something different, to express that gratitude for something specific. Spontaneous praise won't surprise you that in passing or during a casual conversation, I could say something like, I noticed how much effort you put into X, and it really made a difference. Celebrating milestones gives us energy for what comes next. So acknowledging whatever that is you want to celebrate, and a shout out, a recognition, something with that. It is in the celebration we get momentum for what comes next, our next move. Empathy and support. We have been bound by psychological calendars because we have calendars on our phones and our computers that lock us in for hour-long meetings when it really only should have been 15 minutes. We can note check-ins and should put them into our calendar, but I really want you to pay attention to the moment you have in front of you. How are you doing? What can I do to support you this week? Some of my favorite questions also include, what's going on that we didn't expect? Is there anything, any resource you need from me that I can track down for you? Right? There's just this ability, not only the how are you, and actually mean it, like not as a greeting, right? That happens too. But what is next? Offering some adjustments as we need to during challenging times. I know we have schedules and remote work options for some of us, but maybe it's just 10 minutes of a little bit of time to themselves just to catch their breath. We're paying more attention to micro decompressions that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a couple of times during the day can help us feel way more balanced at the end of it. Active listening, it is showing that genuine interest in others, right? By sharing something back with them, asking clarifying questions, but owning it, being present. And acknowledging stress. If you notice someone struggling, say, I can see this project has been demanding. Let's talk about how I can help. Now, that help may feel overwhelming too if you're like, whew, really, I got enough of my own stuff to do. But just acknowledging the stress can also help someone come up with their next best move. Two, these areas that I'm really excited about and are maybe because of they're stretching me in a different direction is around inclusive leadership. I've struggled with that term for a long time. And just what do we really mean by it? So we could mean seeking diverse perspectives, that during meetings, explicitly inviting input from a quieter team member. Are you willing? Or what are your thoughts on this idea? Like making sure different voices are heard. I love rotating responsibilities. So in your organization, if you've got a group and you've got a leader who always leads it, you build skills in others by making them lead it. Or a type of project to ensure that people feel valued and heard, and by the way, stretching some skills. We have to continue to address bias, actively working at eliminating and making us aware of those unconscious bias by diverse representation in all aspects of our organization. And creating safe spaces really is that psychological safety, creating a culture where team members feel comfortable expressing their opinions or raising concerns without that fear of judgment. Psychological safety speaks exactly to that from the research that when I feel like I belong, I feel like I can learn. When I feel like I can learn, I'm going to do better work, for not only for me, but those you serve and my team members. I think an interesting fourth area of this and in moves that we can make is that ability to give feedback. So many times within my work, people go, but I don't want to. I'm going to hear about it for several weeks, or they're not going to like it, or I never want you to hold somebody else back. I know you don't want to, but when we don't give feedback, we're holding somebody else back from getting better. So we need to encourage skill building. What types of trainings or projects are going to stretch someone that next level? We can mentor. Less experience with team members and mentors who can guide and support their development. But I'm going to put a twist on this. It's not on the slide, but we are paying more and more attention to cross mentorship so that we can mentor each other. We need those stretch opportunities. So what is a task that's going to take me to the next level? I think what's interesting about this is these are not huge moves. So it fits our framework of what's next. Here's some feedback. Here's a skill to work on. Here's a conversation I need to have. Here's a new project that I may get to develop one step at a time. So much of what we do is included in these examples. What I want you to consider today is out of all of the things you could do, all of the points in a conversation you could listen to, all of the activities you could decide to pursue, what's your next best one? So we're going to take a look at that Slido for just a moment. So there's a QR code again. There's slido.com. You can log in, and I would ask you to share with us what is one action that you believe can have a great positive impact in your workplace. So I would love if you take a moment to share with me, what does this look like for you? We're going to take a moment to do that. So you get to type in anything. I think it is limited by characters, but you've got a pretty good sentence there. You can also put in multiple. So feel free. You're going to see these populate on the screen in just a moment. I can see in the background, we got people participating. So thank you for that. But what are some of those micro actions that you think can have that ripple effect that we've been talking about? Because one of the other things we see in this, it actually comes out of some additional research around habit formation, right? When we do these small moves, it builds skills, but it also builds habits. So honoring time, right? So I love to be able to say, what does this look like on your priority list? What about your time and my time? We both need some think time. Can we cover for each other, right? Acknowledging, listening, running effective meetings. Like do something next in your meeting to make it more effective. Their argument out on meetings is shorter meetings, but more of them. Sorry for that part of the news, but make them more effective, right? Accountability, I frame as when expectations are clear, we're more accountable. When expectations are clear, we're more accountable. So your next small move might be clarifying an expectation for a team member today, right? Smiling, that mimic the mirror neurons I mentioned earlier. Compassion. It is amazing to me when emotion hits and I'm upset about something, when I can wrestle through my emotions and lead with compassion, I'm a much better leader. Celebrating milestones, positivity, that rotation. Make you look at those, right? Just asking an additional question. One of the things that our team can help you with are resources. So one resource that I readily share in an example from my own experience, I'm really bad at questions. They do not come natural to me, even though I do this work here with you all the time. So we've just started compiling lists and lists of questions. So if there's a resource like that you're ever looking for, like Celina, got anything on that, right? Tony, as my wing woman here on the webinar, will probably beat me to the question, but we can send you resources. So if there's something you're looking for, like I want to ask better questions, but I don't know what to ask of my team, we can help. So just as you soak up all of the key topics, those moves we can make, it just reminds us we don't have to solve it all today, but we need to take the next move. So let's take that on for our last section for my time with you today, that art of adjustment, your next move. I have a couple of scenarios just to hone in on some of these actions we just mentioned. An employee seems disengaged during meetings. Your next move, check in privately. Ask if their feelings are being heard, their ideas are being heard. You might want to find out what's going on. Now, if they're disengaged, do they know why they're in that meeting? Do they have something to contribute to that meeting? Did they try and we shut them down and now they're like, I'm done? Find out. Another scenario, deadline is missed due to team miscommunication. We got to be able to rally people together and say, folks, this is on us. What do we need to do next? What can we commit to? So that might sound like a conversation to invite that team input. And we simply say 3 key things we need to stay focused on. And what are the next actions we do to make sure we're not missing those deadlines? We can come up with a list and a spreadsheet and 300 emails. But maybe take it back to the team discussion to say 3 key steps we need to be aware of to make sure this doesn't happen again. Sometimes our best answers to challenges and problems are simpler, not making it more complicated. Scenario number 3 next. A team member consistently avoids taking on challenging tasks. Privately acknowledge their strengths and ask what support or resources they might need. Because is this a comfort zone thing? Is it that life is hard right now outside of work and they're just feeling overwhelmed? You get to ask, and if they're willing to share, then you can make the next move. But what I like about this note is that what is it about the challenging task? Because I haven't done it before, because I don't have the resources, because it's outside of my comfort zone. And I love the note to start with their strengths. Why is it we want them to take this stretch? Like their strength is here, but I'm asking them to take on something. Let's take on a conflict arises when 2 members, a conflict arises between 2 members over task ownership. I love to point out in our organizations when we're all sitting in a meeting and we all go, that's a really good idea, and nobody owns it, everybody owns it, right? So if 2 team members are like, no, you do it. No, you do it. We got to have some sort of agreement. So that might be a one-on-one with each of them to understand, help me understand, what do you think's going on with this project? Or what's going on and what's your process about this task? And then bring them together to clarify roles and expectations. Clarity, I believe, is one of our most important leadership opportunities going forward. Where can we get rid of the cloudiness? My favorite word is muck I have to be really careful of how I pronounce that, but I love the word muck. When it is mucky, when roles and responsibilities are not clear, miscommunication happens. When miscommunication happens, we damage trust, and trust has to be earned. So maybe that just gives you a few ideas to think about in some of your scenarios. You're going to get a copy of this slide deck along with the link to the video. And I would just ask you to think about what are some of the scenarios you're dealing with and what's one next step that you can help with. I want to bring us back to the research. So part of that work I bring back to is why micro actions work. Why do these small moves help us make progress? First one that continues to come up in the research is consistency. Small positive behaviors compound over time to create significant impact. So we talked about the compounding effect earlier, just briefly, but think about when we make this priority, it continues. Psychological safety has been mentioned a couple of times, but micro actions like we're talking about reinforce a sense of safety, making us feel more valued and respected. And I want more good stuff, like that emotional contagion. We want more good stuff. So positive behaviors can be just as contagious as negative behaviors, right? That's often what we say. Negative is so contagious. We have to be able to switch that over. Positive does positive. One last point we've not mentioned yet. That's why I stuck this in here, because if it hadn't come up, I wanted to make sure I addressed it. Recognizing effort and providing clear expectations empowers individuals to take ownership and perform better. There is something about autonomy, though. It is the opposite of micromanagement. When I feel like I have some say in my work, when I feel like I can do something well, that goes back to self-confidence. And self-confidence comes in when we take that next step. We do it, we learn something, we are more likely to take the next step. And that's really something that I'm excited about to really pull out of this material as we wrestle with this confidence piece and look at mastery in adults. Ways that I'm thinking about this is making the observation. This is you being situationally aware. Reflect on what you're seeing in the situation. Take your best next move. Repeat, and probably learn from that as well. So what's next? I would encourage you today to be intentional about small acts of kindness, recognition, and accountability. Reflect daily on whether your micro actions, your small moves align with where your team needs to go. And track your progress by observing how these actions do influence team trust, morale, and performance over time. My closing challenge to you, and that's actually not the end of the webinar because I do have one more piece for you after this. But in this next week, focus just on one small move each day. Maybe that's for you personally. Maybe it's a relationship in your life that just needs some attention. One small move can do amazing things. If it's in your work life, in your volunteer life, what would that be? And pay attention to how that shifts dynamics around you. So I am also super excited I decided to add this in for this time together because this is what we're working on. We know that next week, my first book with a lot of team effort hits Amazon. Now, I will always encourage you to purchase from your independent bookseller. So we would invite you to our website to order directly, but the Kindle version will be up on Amazon. We want to support that's an important place for our team to get traction with reviews. But regardless of the book sales part of that, because we're super excited about it, I want to share with you a couple of the key points that are right out of the book that also are reinforced by this work on small moves. So the book is called 49 Chameleons with 49 lessons in it. So to each chameleon, if you will, there's a reflection and an action. I want to invite you to listen in and consider these for you. First reflection around change. What small adjustment can you make today to navigate a current change? Action. Identify what's constant in your environment to find also stability during times of change. So those small moves help us keep that stability so it feels a little bit more comfortable. Around strategy, I want you to take those big challenges and focus into small steps. So here's small moves. If we look at a 3-year strategic plan with a whole lot of work we need to do, what's your next best move? What will help you stay focused? We do have to refresh our strategy periodically because small pivots can lead to significant growth. For us as leaders, what does confidence look like for you? So we mentioned confidence today because when I'm confident, I am more likely to make that move. So what do you need to do to build that muscle in you to strengthen it from within? And we know that sometimes, though, while we want to make that next move, leading may mean stepping back and observing what is unfolding when others take the lead. Again, our next best move may not be us doing something. It may be allowing somebody else to do what they need to do. Couple more for us today. Relationships. How can you encourage and uplift someone on your team today? We are recording this in December, and December usually for many people comes with some heavy weight. There are so many things that may be pressing upon you and those you spend time with. So this is a great reminder any time of the year, and especially during heavier yet happier times. It's a great time to embrace other people's ideas and strengths. I know in my own household, when I'm committed to a certain plan of action, sometimes we just do better when I adopt somebody else's new idea. That may get cut out of the final video or somebody's going to play it no, I'm kidding, for my family, right? But it's always better. My decisions, my experience is always better when I let other people into it who can be healthy and contributory, and it's all about that relationship. Last couple, communication. What's one way you can improve communication during a transition or change? What's your small move today to write one better email, to lead a better meeting? Just clarify expectations to make sure it's being received and acted upon in the way you need it to. So we want to, when leading change, communicate in multiple ways and times to ensure clarity. If you've ever been in a conversation, they shared a whole bunch of information with you and walked away and you went, I have no idea what they just told me, right? They missed meeting you where you were at. I don't want you to do that for other people. Adaptability. How adaptable are you to the unexpected? Small moves also help us adjust to unknown conditions. Think about that for just a moment. We have to be able to move quickly through different scenarios because we know complexity is not going away within our organizations. And I note it always as change is going to happen, being change ready is a choice. So how adaptable are you to the unexpected? Think about a recent situation and your response to it. We need to have a plan, but we need to be able to adjust the plan. So embracing flexibility includes planning. It isn't just winging it, as much as I love to wing it. It is adaptability that gives us resilience, the ability to adjust and be resourceful in the moments we need it. I hope those pieces were helpful for you today. We are super excited about this book and it coming out as just another reinforcement of our team's commitment and my work that is dedicated to helping organizations improve through and with our people. So stay tuned on those details. You're going to see a number of things attached to this series of projects, including book 2 and 3 in this series, some additional fun downloads, workbooks, cards that can also be used in conjunction with the book. We're happy to support your efforts and just are grateful in the season of gratitude and always for the things you do to support and recognize our team.